Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio, powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody, might as well buy them from us. Help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And today we have another incredible family and friends guest. Not Professor Penn. This is not another Hebrews edition, but it's almost just as good. We almost had the great Professor Penn come in and join us, but he got busy just now. So we got the great Lal Gabriel in the studio today. Thanks for being here, brother. I appreciate it. This is a lifelong family friend and somewhat of a mentor and advisor, one of the smartest guys I know. So it's good to have you in the studio today.
It's great to be here.
Appreciate you being here. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, LaSalle is Grammy award-winning musician and an incredibly talented, gifted, successful music executive. Been in the music business a long time, and I want to start there. We'll start talking about your history in the music business, but let's start a little bit back before that. We always got to start our guests where they were born, where they grew up, how they grew up, mom, dad, the whole 9 yards. And we'll get to the music business in a little bit.
Well, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and worked in the music business now for about 40 years. I come from a musical family. My father was a classically trained trumpet player. My mother was a gospel singer. And there are three of us, three boys. My brother, Alex Al, is one of the top 5 recording bassists in the United States. He's played with everybody from Pavarotti to Michael Jackson.
What's the name again?
Alex Al.
Yeah.
You may have seen him playing bass guitar on Arsenio Hall, part of the band. But just a fabulous musician, great brother, fantastic cat. And so I came here in 87, 88 for the first time and started doing a lot of work for Jam and Lewis, Prince, and Low Key. And as a matter of fact, at the time, I had a song out called The Room that was a platinum single back in 89, and Mint Condition was my backup band.
Wow.
So
classic.
A lot of history there. So I worked on I Got a Thing for You by Low Key, which was a first #1 single off the Perspective record label through A&M Records, and worked with Sounds of Blackness on their first 4 albums and produced their comeback album in 2005, which was the gospel album of 2005 of the year. And so just, a lot of different projects, a lot of real estate, a lot of music, production, TV, film, everything. Whatever I can get my hands on, I try to do the work.
Yeah. What was it like growing? So you grew up in Michigan during the Motown era?
Well, afterwards. So Motown had left. Unfortunately, I had a job working at a shoe store called Sibley Shoes, which was right across the street from Motown. And Motown had moved the year before I had gotten the job. I think I was 13 or 14.
Okay.
So I missed out on that easy transition because I would have had those stars for customers. As it was, I still met a lot of stars, people like Rick James, Tina Marie, Ramsey Lewis. These were all my mentors. A lot of work with Rick James in the 11th grade. I used to listen to all my songs. And Ramsey Lewis was tremendously helpful. And then I had another mentor, Andre Morgan, and Barry White was a major mentor in my career. Made a lot of great decisions based on his tutelage and direction and guidance. And so I've done 40 tours, international tours, and 46 live performances on late night television. And so far, so good.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, this guy is one of the real legends of the Minnesota music history. Who do you think was most influential? I mean, if there was one artist you had to pick growing up, I know that's always hard when people ask me, but
I would say it was my father.
Okay.
He was a classically trained trumpet player, had auditioned for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra on 3 different occasions. But at the time, they had this, ban against hiring Negro musicians in the 60s and 70s. But he would audition every 3 years, and he'd win the chair, and then they would say, hey, you're the best trumpet player for the audition, but we can't hire you because you're black. And then in the 70s, when they finally, allowed black musicians to perform with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, he wasn't interested anymore. So he trained his sons in the music industry, gave us a huge leg up politically, and just, the music business is a business and it is hard work. It is not fun. You make a lot of money, but you have to do a lot of hard work and make a lot of sacrifice.
Another question for you.
Sure.
What was your first instrument? What'd you start off playing?
My first instrument was a drum set.
Okay.
And then my younger brother, he got a guitar for Christmas, and I got the drum set. So we started playing each other's instruments. So then parents said, well, if you want to switch, go ahead and switch. So I switched the guitar. He switched the drummer, became a drummer. And I just started, listening to the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix. Didn't know what I was really hearing. And then 4 years go by before I actually got serious about the instrument. I think I was 11 years old. My father took me to the modern day Walmart of the day back in the 70s. And I said, "Look, I really want to play the guitar now. I need a new guitar. I need a guitar strap. I need strings. I need an amplifier." He says, "Look, I'm going to buy you everything you need, but this is the last time I ever buy you anything for your music. If you want to be in the music business, get a job. Otherwise, you won't appreciate the value of hard work and how to make a dollar." So I never forgot that moment in my history. And so I've raised all my kids the same way.
I feel like the interview is too cliche. We got to take another. What was your favorite instrument? What was your early instrument? What was your early inspiration? Let's talk for real.
Okay.
Like Uncle LaSalle.
Uncle.
Uncle LaSalle. That first moment, that first big break. Like what was that first moment where it was like, all right, I'm going somewhere with music. I'm on my way.
Well, I had this deal with my parents that I was going to become an attorney. So I was in pre-law in Michigan, and the deal was I had to continue to stay in school, working toward becoming a lawyer until I got a break. So one day I was working at this shoe store, Sibley shoe store, and this drop dead gorgeous 6 foot tall Brazilian woman walks in and she says, I need to buy some shoes for my husband's birthday. So I take her, all around the store. She buys these shoes. Then she says, I need to find out what size shoe he wears. So she calls Cobo Hall stage door. He turns out to be the manager for the Gap band. So he says, well, you won't believe what happened. Charlie Wilson and the guitar player just got in a fight, and the guitar player's been fired. What are we going to do? So I'm like, ooh, wait. She goes, what is it, young man? I says, tell your husband I know the finest guitar player in the state. So she starts to laugh. She puts him on the phone, and I do my spiel. He comes out to my house the next morning, and he auditions me at 6:30 in the morning, and I got the tour.
Wow.
And that's how I got in the music business, was basically making my own luck and being ready.
Wow. So they had guy drop out. You just spur the moment, had to be right place, right time. Said, "I'm the guy that can fill in." He comes to audition you, and you get the tour with the Gap band.
I played. He came to my house. I did all my best Jimi Hendrix stick, play with my teeth behind my back, rolling around on the floor like I was on fire. He goes, "Really? At 6:30 in the morning?" So he hired me. I got the job, and then I went from the Gap band, then started working with Vesta Williams, became her music director, then Barry White, then Low Key, Johnny Gill, Karen White. DJ Quick. I worked on one of his biggest records, Safe and Sound, which was triple platinum.
Yeah.
And then I worked on Scrubs by TLC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scrubs. Was that no, Rob Fusari didn't work on Scrubs. He did Bills with Destiny's Child.
Right.
You familiar with Rob Fusari?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He the one who did the paparazzi record for Lady Gaga.
Right.
Yeah. He's a talented guy. Had a lot of records as well. Funnest person to work with. Who was the person you go in the studio and you're like, all right, this is a joy. I look forward to this.
Well, I was a gun for hire. I mean, I charged $5,000 a day. I mean, I had a moment there for about 7 to 8 years where every song I worked on was either number one, gold, or platinum. And so I milked that for what it was worth. But I would say the most interesting session I had was with DJ Quick. He had me come out to, I think it was Skip Saylor Studios, and Suge Knight was there.
Oh, wow.
And Suge Knight was in a limousine, and they had the front door of the studio propped open so he could see and hear what I was doing. So I came in and I played my part, and he was satisfied. And I think I did a session in about 90 minutes. And then DJ Quick just reached in his pocket and handed me a wad of cash and paid my full day rate, even though I was only there for 90 minutes. And then Suge Knight came in and says, good job, good job. You know, so I got my guitars and got out of there, of course.
What are some of those, let's say, let's start with the crazy stories. I don't want to go to the horror stories yet, but what's a crazy story from the music business that's just like one of those you would never believe this type of thing happens?
Oh my gosh. How much time you got?
Oh man.
Well,
we got time. We got time.
Let's see. In Detroit, when I was trying to get a break in the industry, my thing was I would call the stage door of whatever the venue was, 30,000, 3,000, didn't matter. I would say, hey, we're going to have our man, Lal Gabriel's going to come down there and check for union cards, make sure he shows ID, and make sure he gets a backstage pass. So I used that ruse to get in to see and meet every star that came to Detroit for 7 years.
Mhm.
Okay, so I would get back there with my suit and tie and my briefcase. And so, oh, you have ID? Say, let's see what I can find. Yep, here's this. So that's how I met Rick James and Tina Marie and Ramsey Lewis and Prince and all those cats. And I would say I've had a very, very blessed career. I don't have any tragedies. I don't have any problems. It was almost like God was using my life in a way that would allow me to do all this work at the same time. At one point, I was a guitar player for Karen White, Johnny Gill, Sounds of Blackness, and the Gap Band at the same time
You kidding me?
for 7 years and never once had a conflict.
Are you kidding me?
I was their only guitar player for 7 years. And sometimes,
How's that possible? Like
well,
on tour?
yes, sometimes I would get off a plane and the Lord would speak to me and he would say, don't leave the airport, go sit down. So I'd go sit down and I sit there for 7 hours. Page would go off. Hey man, this is Charlie Wilson. We're getting ready to go to do the Fox Theater in Atlanta. I said, when? Well, I need to get to the airport in an hour. Oh, okay, I'll be there. This happened for years at a time.
That is weird.
I mean,
That's strange.
There were times when I was doing a video.
For all of you that don't know, Uncle LaSalle right here is a strange cat. I mean, you got a strange little aura, kind of mystique way about you. You know, you'll pop up, and he's just kind of one of those cats. So that's strange. That's weird, but it kind of helps me understand like how you ended up the way you are.
Well, in the 80s, I remember one time I was in prayer, I was meditating,
Mhm.
and God spoke to me, and He says, one day I'm going to put you in a position where you're going to have the choice to either buy Paisley Park or Flight Time.
Wow.
And so He's telling me all these things are going to happen. This is like 88, 89. And then I say, well, God, where is Minnesota? Because I don't even know where that is. At any rate, when I got to Minnesota and started doing various work for those guys, it was 2003 when Prince decided he wanted to sell Paisley Park. And we tried to buy it for about $7 million, couldn't come together on price. But then I ended up buying Flight Time 2 weeks later. And I remember when I signed the purchase agreement for $2.75 million, I didn't have the money, but I found the money in 13 days. So I'm always led by the Holy Spirit. I'm always led by prayer. I work hard. I hustle as much as possible, but I pray, and I want to make sure that I have God's guidance. That's how you make it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so you ended up buying Flight Time in
2003, I think.
2003.
$2.75 million in cash, and then sold it to an investment group same day for $7 million.
Wait, what?
Yes. And then I went on to run a record company through that studio, through Warner Electra Atlantic Records, and we made about $14 million in 42 months.
Wait a minute. You bought Flight Time for $2.7 million.
So I'll give you the backdrop. So
Please, tell me this. How did this happen?
I was trying to buy Paisley Park for probably 8 months. So he wanted $15 million. I offered him 3.7. He came down to 12. I came up to 5. He came down to 10. I came up to 7. And for 4 months, he wouldn't come down to 7. We wouldn't go up to 10. And eventually the investor said, look, just give him the 10 million. Well, then he changed his mind. He wanted 15. So I get a phone call from a friend of mine in Stillwater.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what's going on? He says, listen, would you like to own Flight Time? I says, I'm going to.
Keep going.
How am I going to own Flight Time? They're scheduled to close next Tuesday. Yeah. Well, he says, I'm sitting next to the mother and daughter of the young man who's the key man on that deal. And unfortunately, he's been killed in a traffic accident and he's not going to close. So I sat down with the broker and I filled out the purchase agreement and we sent it over there to Stewart Title and we closed in about 2 weeks. But I would have never had the stones to attempt that had God not told me 15 years before that one day I would come to Minnesota and have my pick between these two studios. Had I not known that that was God talking to me in such a way, like I'm speaking to you right now, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. I mean, you're writing a check for 2% for $2.75 million, and you got 15 days to close. God found the money. It just came to me. And all my deals are that way. My father used to always say, God made the earth, so real estate is part of God's domain. Okay. And then money has God.
Okay, I like that.
And then money has God's name on it. So when you're trying to do a money deal or a real estate deal and you're not praying, you're leaving half your power on the table.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so you end up, tell me about, well, let me ask you this question first. Is Prince the most talented guy you ever been around?
I would say Prince is the most talented musician since Beethoven, Mozart. I mean, you can't compare Prince to anyone born in the last 150 years. Nobody could play those instruments. And, I play most of the instruments that he can play. But the nuance, the creative nuance to play bass like the only bass player, he just came here to play bass. I'm going to play drums like I only play drums. His ability to multi-track himself in such a way that it still sounded like 5 independent thinking musicians, nobody can do that. I mean, Stevie Wonder, probably. But yes, I would say he's the most talented.
So you're saying that when you, as an expert, as a professional, as a what would they call it, as a master?
Yes.
Master musician.
Yes.
You can listen to Prince's records and hear that he was he multi-tracked himself and played each instrument with a completely novel sort of creative take. Like he had like 5 different personalities.
Absolutely. And wow, that's the part, because my son is a musical genius. He plays all the instruments, mm-hmm, Grant. But when I listen to his tracks, I can tell he tracked all the parts. Now, they're still smoking. I mean, we just wrote a song for a group called L'Amour that was one of the top 20,000 songs for 2023 and later made the last round for the Grammy nominations for the top 400 songs. And it's a fantastic tune. Then we brought in Jerry Hay and a lot of Quincy Jones arrangers did a fabulous job. But what I'm saying is Prince had that uncanny ability to say, this is what a bass player would play. The bass player would be responding to what the drummer and the keyboard player just recorded. Now that reactive approach, when someone hires me to play guitar for them, especially in my heyday in the late 90s, I would tell the producer, don't play the song for me. Just tell me what key it's in. And so it doesn't make any sense. I said, look, check your tones, but I don't want to hear the song before I play because I want my spirit to react to what I'm hearing the first time I hear it. Now, Prince could do that times 10. So when I would play on a song like I Got a Thing for You by Low Key, he played that song. That's one take. That's the first thing I played. I told the engineer, record everything I'm going to play before I hear the song. Ray Parker told me it was called optimum tune awareness, where if you have a wealth of understanding from an academic standpoint, classically trained or whatever, for your music, then you should be able to play any note that's necessary, and it shouldn't take you 7 hours to do it. So when I played the guitar and I Got a Thing for You, that's one pass. And then we came back and he says, look, that thing you did at 1:14, could you do that at 2:37? That thing you did at 2:12, could you do that for the intro? The same parts. But all the parts I wrote in the first 3.5 minutes of hearing the song.
Wow. And you're saying that Prince had the ability to just sort of tap into each instrument and build make it sound like it's 6, 7 guys playing.
And then sing and then dance.
Okay, let's talk vocals. Can we talk vocals?
Sure.
Okay. Me and my mom, you know me, my mom, if for those of you who don't know, I know LaSalle here, Uncle LaSalle, because my mom was dating Jelly Bean Johnson.
That's correct.
When I was a kid.
Mhm.
And that's the same sort of musical scene, circle.
Yep.
I'm sure that's how you guys met
Yep.
when you guys were younger. So my mom is a very enthusiastic about music herself, just as a fan, didn't play instruments, didn't sing or do any of that, but she certainly kept a heavy dose of music around the house and in the car, and she's an enthusiast,
Well, definitely a candidate for Mother of the Year as well.
Yes, absolutely, always. And we have these arguments all the time about vocalists.
Okay.
Or let's say we talk about who's great. Now, you talked about Rick James and hanging out with Rick James and Prince. Who's the best male vocalist?
Luther Vandross.
By far, not even close.
I mean, there's Luther Vandross, there's Frank Sinatra, there's Michael Jackson, and then it falls off the truck after that. I had the
And how do you measure? Do you measure it by
what a guy can do
range, vocal range?
Well, no,
or just tone, melody.
It's timbre, it's phrasing, it's personality, it's empathy, it's academic prowess from a musical standpoint. I mean, Sounds of Blackness on their first tour opened for Luther Vandross, so I got to see this guy every night. Just amazing. Now, I'll tell you another thing. I worked with Johnny Gill, and we did several tours. And I remember one time I was riding with him to Japan, and when he would sing on the plane, it sounded like he had a recording studio at the back of his throat. Some people just have that thing. Now, I've been in the studio with Aretha Franklin, Anita Baker, Ann Nesby, Vesta Williams. Those are the best singers on the planet, if you ask me.
Luther Vandross, Michael Jackson,
and my family's very close with Michael Jackson. From a female standpoint, I'd say Ann Nesby, Aretha Franklin, Anita Baker. Now, I was a guest artist on one of Anita Baker's tours in the 2000s. She called me up one night. She says, "Hey, I called Prince and I called Skip Scarborough and these other people and George Duke and Herbie Hancock." And I said, "I'm looking for the Black Clapton." I said, "Okay." She says, "Are you the Black Clapton?" I says, "If you say I am." And so she says, "Well, out of those 4 guys, 3 of them mention your name." Now, I've never met any of them at the time except for Prince. So at any rate, no rehearsal. She says, "I need you to come on stage. The rest of the group is wearing tux and gowns. I want you to come out wearing a crushed velvet tux jacket and a Brooks Brothers shirt with one side hanging out, some cowboy boots, and some ripped up blue jeans with 5 o'clock shadow." I say, "Okay." So she points, "Go over to stage right and wait for me to go change clothes." So every time she changed clothes, 4-hour show every night, flawless. When she would leave to change her gown, I would come out and play a guitar solo for 12 minutes or less. And it was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I worked with her. No drop keys, no mistakes. Sounds just like the record every single night.
Jeez.
I mean, really.
Every night.
Sounds
like the record.
3 hours, 45 minutes, and then the encore. And she treats her people first class. 5-star hotels, first class travel, no buses, I didn't have to bring any equipment, paid me an outrageous amount of money. That was by far the finest tour I've ever worked on. Now, the Gap Band would be the most fun.
Yeah.
Those guys, man. And I got a chance to play guitar on their Live and Well live album, which is their only live album recorded at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. Fabulous guys.
Did you contribute on the record Circles?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. That's a great record, though.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that record. It's incredible. Wow. Okay, let me ask this question. Tina Marie. how incredible was Tina Marie's voice? Does she make the top list, or you not?
Well, she was like an aunt to me.
Mm.
I met her through her valet who came to Sibley Shoes. Again, I mean, without Sibley Shoes, I don't have a career. Um, she I had a chance to meet her. She went on the tour bus, gave her my demo tapes. I'm in the 11th grade.
Mhm.
She goes, "Oh, it's great. You got a lot of potential. Just keep writing." So, I mean, think about this.
Move this mic a little closer to you. Nope. Move the mic. Pull the mic
Oh,
towards you.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more.
A little more.
Yeah, a little more.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
All right, good. I've got a few of these at the studio.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm telling a guy who's a professional music artist here, an expert, where he has to have the mic. That's ridiculous.
Hey, you know what?
This is probably going to turn out better than mine.
You're never too old to take good direction. So Tina Marie was one of my mentors.
Okay.
And then she introduced me to Rick James.
Yeah.
Now, these guys, I would send them demo tapes every 6 weeks.
Mhm.
And then they would take them maybe 6 weeks to get back, but they would write very meticulous critiques of my arrangements, as did Ramsey Lewis. So Ramsey Lewis, Rick James, Tina Marie, they really shaped my songwriting prowess in the later years of high school. And I mean, just can't thank them enough for that. So matter of fact, my daughter Lauren right now is studying Tina Marie. I said, listen, in terms of women, period, who could write, arrange, produce, perform their own music, there's Tina Marie, and there's a really short list that I can't even think of after that.
Mm.
I think she was the best to ever do it.
She's kind of in her league of her own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stellar.
And Rick James, how talented. Where does Rick James measure up?
Rick James started out as a session musician working for Groovesville, Motown in Detroit back in the 60s and 70s. And, he could just take a little simple riff and turn it into a 5, platinum selling song. He was phenomenal that way. I would hang out with him. We'd have these crazy parties. I mean, the most ridiculous things you ever heard of.
It's Rick James.
It was Rick James, in other words. And so
he makes everybody else look like a saint.
Well, he invented that stuff.
Yeah, right.
He was funk and roll, as he used to call it. And just a fantastic guy. Couldn't really hang out with him on his level, but over the phone and through the mail, he treated me like a nephew, which was, far more valuable for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a pivot. I want to talk about the evolution of music, transition of music. There was a time where, let's say, black music kind of in your heyday and shortly there before, where black music represented something very different. And I won't say very different because it's always reflective in some ways of the culture of the black community. But obviously crime and drugs and people get this mistaken. We think of gangster rap as like the advent of crime in the black community. That's not real. I mean, there were gangsters and things like that in the 60s and 70s. But the music was very different, and I'm sure you watched that happen. I'm sure you witnessed it firsthand. You talk about the evolution of music from coming out of the black community. I mean, I listen back to people like Marvin Gaye and go back even further to Al Green and, whoever you want to name,
Well, we actually, as a race, had our best mavericks, if you will, of music in the 60s and in the 50s. I mean, you have to say that Chuck Berry is the father of rock and roll.
Absolutely.
And then you have to say James Brown and Sam Cooke. There are music deals today that are being done at BMG all over the place that are nowhere as advanced as the record deals that Sam Cooke was getting in the 60s, and also Ray Charles.
Mm.
I mean, if you could have had a Ray Charles deal in 1963, man, you'd be doing, a great service for yourself. But to me, there was a hand-in-glove relationship between the persona of the way the black race was presented during the Motown years. Suit and tie, the hair, the elegant training, just total elegance wrapped around smooth talk and great R&B. Now, we kind of devolved from there. I mean, basically starting with Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. That was kind of the 50-yard line between old school and what's going to be the new school.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything just followed suit. I mean, Martin Luther King was killed in 68. A lot of the things that were hallmarks of the black family began to change. On the day Martin Luther King was assassinated, 47% of blacks owned their own business. Today it's 7%.
Say that again?
47%.
The day Martin Luther King was killed.
April 4th, 1968, 47% of blacks had their own business. Today, only 7% do. 94% of all black children were born to a married couple. Now, nearly 80% of our children are born out of wedlock.
Mm.
And when you start looking at the social economic advancements of other ethnic groups like Asians and Indians, those families are 92, 94% merit rate. You cannot have a successful ethnic group without a strong family backbone. When you say, well, after 300 years of slavery, a black person was more likely to have a high school diploma than anyone else in America in 1945. So these are the things that are kind of missing.
Wait, in 1945, a black person was more likely to have a high school diploma than anybody else in the country?
Correct. Than his white counterparts.
Wow.
I mean, really. We fell off a mountain.
It's funny. I had an argument the other day with one of my friends, and I told him that the way "Make America Great Again" has been portrayed in the mainstream media is a far cry from what it really means. And we could talk about what some people may mean by it, but that's different than talking about whether there is an overall value of looking back at history and seeing a time when things were much better for America as a whole, but specifically black people as well. And I referenced, just from a historical knowledge, I referenced the 50s, and the 60s as kind of the advent of America's superiority as a manufacturing leader in the world. And the impact that had at manufacturing, and how many people had jobs in the manufacturing business in the black community. Obviously, Detroit being
the hub,
right? I mean, you're from the place where it was, but even before that, you're saying that there was just a culture. There was a culture of success with black people that is what, intentionally mischaracterized.
Well, getting back to your earlier point, the music is the soundtrack of our lives. Something Quincy Jones said to me. So when you think about it, you listen to the music that was on the radio in the 60s from Motown.
Yeah.
Baby, I love you. I need you. Let's stay together.
Yes.
So on and so forth. Suit and tie, hair perfectly coiffed, the whole thing. And then you get into the 90s and you've got gangster rap and you got the beginning of the decay of the social economic backbone of black America. Now, my thing is, I have nothing against these other genres. Just that in our race, we don't have many choices.
Right.
I mean, my white counterparts are allowed to have Eminem and have Sting. They're both great. They're both geniuses.
Right.
Okay?
Yes, they are.
So when you start looking at Megan Thee Stallion, well, who's our counterculture to Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B?
Well, they're out there, but they're nowhere. Sting certainly has been. The counterparts, like you're saying, in that demo are certainly given just as much, if not more, commercial backing, as the Meg Thee Stallions on our side.
And she's a fabulous artist. She's a fabulous artist, and I don't think that we should have to choose. I think we should have more to choose.
I kind of don't agree that she's fabulous.
Well, I'm just saying in her genre for what she does.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm not knocking rap music, but I'll say this. When I was 10, when I was in my 20s, and even now, I was telling this story on the podcast. I told my basketball team, we're riding to the tournament. We're in Ohio. We're in, where were we at? We were in, right outside Cincinnati. I think is a little bit, 30 minutes north of Cincinnati, one of those towns, I forget now. But anyway, we're riding and I'm listening to rap music, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror and I'm seeing 10 boys in the back seat. 8 of them are black, 2 of them are white. But they all love rap music, and but I'm thinking in my head, now that I'm at this age, I got this, this Jimmy the Cricket in my head that's going. I understand the content of what's being said in these songs, So I turn the music down and I get on them. You know, I'm like Coach Royce, but I treat them all like my sons. My son
Yeah.
plays on the team, but I treat them all like my sons.
It's fantastic.
And I told him, I turn the music down and I say, now listen, if Coach finds out that you're out here trying to emulate or you're trying to reenact what you're hearing in this music, we're gonna have a problem.
Well, and that's my point.
Yeah. What I mean is, and then I said, but I listen to it too.
Right.
Now I try and play the clean versions at least, even though I use profanity on the podcast all the time. So, there's a bit of a contradiction. I use it as like colorful, accent to the political issues I'm talking about. It's a little bit more vulgar and, direct coming in the musical form, I think, especially with rap. But when I say I don't think Meg Thee Stallion's a good artist, coming up the way I came up, I was impressed by it. And it was, there's two sort of cultures of music. There's music that is done on the go, in motion, that's exclusive to an environment. And then there's the music that kind of stands alone, if you know what I'm saying. Rap music, is great in a nightclub. It's great if you're working out. It's great if you're driving around sometimes. It's great in certain settings. But if you're just talking about music, at appreciating the music, like one of the artists I love right now that I can't, every time I go to YouTube and I go listen to some music, I can't help but go listen to her music is Yebba.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
She's just, and as soon as it hits, she does this song called Distance, and she did a live Tiny Desk rendition of her song Distance.
She's amazing.
And then she did a great song, Heart Can't Take, with Lucky Day.
Yeah.
Live. And it just, when I start to think about my like of rap music, it's so based on social circumstance. It's a very social genre of music, right? Whereas if I'm listening to Yebba, I can actually sit back and just completely detach from what anybody else thinks.
But that's my point.
Yes.
You can have our counterparts in America. They have Yebba. They have Eminem.
Adele.
They have Adele.
Yeah.
They have this wide selection of genres. I mean, is Billie Eilish on the same level artistically as Whitney Houston?
No.
She's got more Grammys for one album. She got all
Billie
the
Eilish has more Grammys than Whitney Houston?
I don't know the exact number,
but it's comparable.
But I'm saying that the amount of Grammys she got for her debut album is comparable to what Michael Jackson did on Thriller. I mean, she cleaned up all the highly coveted categories for the Grammys.
Okay.
So, I mean, you look at Public Enemy, you look at Tupac, you know what I'm saying? We just need more artists to do more things. And I think with the situation with streaming, which Prince really is the father of streaming.
Yes.
He was the one that, was the first cat to go down that rabbit hole. I mean, it wasn't even a rabbit hole. He had to dig it. So the thing is,
what do you mean? Explain that. Prince was the father of streaming.
Well, okay, so he was having all these issues with Warner Brothers, and then he started to develop his own pipeline of delivering music directly to his consumers. And then he was going to the internet, and so he was doing iTunes before there was iTunes. Really, he is the template for iTunes, I believe. Doesn't get credit for it, just miraculous brainstem. But the thing is, we don't have the same choices. But now that you have streaming, anyone can release a record. You have 100,000 songs released every day. When I first
remember, my thing is that there are artists like, let's say, what's the young black woman's name? I forget her name. Maybe is it Sonora? Is that her name? Anyway, she's got that very early 1900s jazz voice,
Summer something.
I forget her name.
She was at the Essence Festival. I know you. Summer Joy, is that what is her name?
Sonora Joy. I think it's Sonora.
I know you. I know who you're speaking.
Yes,
she's a throwback to Sarah Vaughan.
Yeah, Billie Holiday.
Oh my
that
goodness.
era. Yeah,
her voice is amazing.
And she just does not break through. I mean, no matter what. Like, I could put my phone up right now, for example, and I know of her. And I mean, you hear a voice and you think to yourself, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's actually unbelievable. Even by people who listen to music and are enthusiasts. When I heard Adele's first album, I was like, okay, they figured that out. I mean, they caught that. What they were trying to do, they hit it right on the money.
Well, there's a
But
young
this
artist.
woman is incredible, and she just will not. If I go to iTunes right now, she's gonna be you got to dig for her.
But think about it. Without streaming, there would have been no way you could have heard her.
True, for sure.
See, so this is really one of the best moments in music history right now.
Yeah, I agree.
If we can figure out the money, the streaming money is it's kind of a bad thing.
Yeah.
I tell guys all the time, oh, I got 5 million streams. They say, oh, wow, 5 million streams. So if you had 175 million streams, you'd have $12,000.
Is that the rate?
It's bad. It's a bad deal. But that is what it is.
So it's only benefited the music industry.
I sit on both sides of the aisle.
Well, not the music industry. I'd say the tech people who have come in and kind of taken over.
It's really hard to find where the profit center is. When you got to look at Spotify, some of their main investors are Sony and Warner Brothers and UMG.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting the money off the licensing, and they're getting the money off share price. So they're winning on both sides. And that's what I tell a lot of artists now when they come into my studio. Mr. Gabriel, this, that, and I said, look, first, how much money you have saved? 10 grand? Okay, buy some stock in Apple and buy some stock in Spotify to hedge your bets. Because the likelihood that you're going to see any real cash, I mean, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was making $150,000 a year playing the guitar. And some years more than that.
Wow.
Okay. So I just spoke to one of the top musicians in town yesterday. He told me last year he made $30,000. This guy was everywhere playing with everybody.
Wow.
He was touring. He was doing all kinds of things. The landscape is wide and vast, but it's not littered with gold like it used to be.
And so, everybody gets a chance, but the chance is really kind of curated, isn't it? I mean, isn't Apple, who's choosing? How does the algorithm say that a Sonora Joy, I think that's her name, I keep getting it wrong, I gotta look it up, but that she, there's no, I feel like when you open things up, obviously you sort of circumvent any type of corrupt gatekeeping and vanguarding that goes on, like with any industry. But at the same time, when you take it away, the quality goes down, right? Because if I have a LaSalle, and I'm not that doesn't mean that you have to be a master musician to understand the greatness and quality of what you hear. Because I wouldn't agree with that. Greatness can be understood from common people. Obviously, that's why some musicians are universally loved. But as an industry, like when you take an Apple and you say, okay, everybody put their music up, how is the algorithm even coming close to rewarding the artists that it needs to promote to advance music as an industry?
Well, as you know, I just built a $5 million recording studio in Maple Grove, 15,000 square feet. I have a production company. I have the record company. I have the recording studio, and we kind of have a vertical integration of ways to make money for our investors. And the way we accomplish that is we try to position our artists in such a way that they eventually end up on tour with a number of hit records. So, for instance, if you have a young artist and they've got a couple million streams, but they're getting airplay, so that the concert promoters can find them and put them on these tours, they're making $15,000, $20,000 a night, 15 nights a month. And then the second single, there'll be a $35,000. By the
$35,000 a night.
A night. So then by the fifth,
can I cut a record? Can we? I got a great baritone voice. Can we get me?
Man, I'm
songs?
Recording you right now, and I got a guy at the studio doing a remix for you, man. It's going to be outstanding.
$20,000 to $15,000 a night, 30 to 15 nights a month.
Listen, eventually with 5 singles, that let's say your investors kick in $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 to promote 5 singles over 22 months. Your audience share continues to grow. But you're going to be worth about $175,000 a night, 15 nights a month. And you could tour for 14 months. That's cash, man. Investors make their money back. Start over with the next artist. I just signed an artist from Africa. Fantastic artist. Madame Blue. She is Sade reinvented. She's fantastic. So we're doing this thing where we got our disco thing with L'Amour and L'Amour music. And then we have the Sade thing. And then I've got a young artist out of Wisconsin who's kind of Americana, a fabulous singer. And we're moving this thing along. But the bottom line is we're able to make money off renting studio time, charging to produce songs. I charge $100,000 per song to produce one record. But then I write, arrange, produce, perform, mix, and record and master. I give you a finished record. I don't do demos. I give you a finished record. And that's our one of our marketing drivers. And so that works out for us. So there's a lot of opportunities for young artists to make money in the industry. They should use streaming.
Yeah.
They should use social media. Just keep an eye on where you can really make some cash, which is live performance.
Right. And it's still it's just kind of a stretch, right? I mean, I remember the song, well, first of all, Adele's first album, 19, sat on the shelves for about, I don't know, it was about 9 months before that Hometown Glory song caught fire, and the rest was history. Now, and by 25, she's doing the most in 1 week. So that can happen too.
Well, now think about that. Now, you could not stream Hello when she dropped 25. You had to buy the CD, you had to buy wax, you had to do, you had to have a physical unit sale. So she doesn't get enough credit for this. She sold 5 million physical units in 7 days. Elvis never did that. Michael Jackson never did that. Prince never did. It's never been done before. I mean, somebody sells 700,000 physical units in a day, 7 days in a week. It's outstanding. But now listen to the way she sings. She comes out. She's got a gown on. She's a beautiful young woman. And she had a bass player, a keyboard player, and a drummer. There's no lights. There's no dancers. There's no explosions. Just her. I remember when she came to Minnesota, her tickets were $1,200. I think I paid $1,200 a piece for her tickets, and it was worth it. Okay, not since my time with Anita Baker had I been in the room with someone that had that type of vocal prowess. She's phenomenal.
Yeah. And with Adele, let's take an Adele situation as juxtaposed to some of our black female artists. What was it? Was it just the contrast of what the industry had become, like where the industry had gone, why she was successful, or was it how they produced it and the sound that they captured? What was it?
Let me tell you about America.
Okay.
When American Idol was first introduced, you had 32 million Americans tune in to see some unknown singers they never heard of sing songs from 30 years ago. And then they tuned in the next night for 32 million people again. That tells you what America is really about. We want to see you sing. We want to be entertained. And we don't need all that other nonsense. And Taylor Swift has tapped into that value system. And that's why she's the biggest selling artist of all time for concerts.
Yeah. 1 second. But Adele specifically, though, I mean, when I think about all these singers, all these black female singers, who I'm not going to say are just as good a vocalist as Adele, because like you said, there's a lot.
It's the timbre. Listen, when I would break up with a girl, I had to go get my Anita Baker album or my Sade album, and I had to sit down and open the windows and play that CD till I was over it. You know what I'm saying? Why? It's smooth as silk. It's the timbre of her voice. It's the emotion.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't say that about everyone. I once saw Sade perform at Northrop here in town. And right before she came on stage, her husband had served her divorce papers. Like immediately, he wanted her to be served as she was walking on stage. She comes out, she sings, show is over, lights come on, people are leaving. She comes back out, no shoes on, some ripped up jeans and a t-shirt, and she starts singing this plaintive wail melody. There were no words, but everybody was touched. It was crazy. She did that 4 times. Just every time she left, she'd come back. So you'd get your pocketbook and stuff, and you'd leave, and then the lights would go back off, and you'd run back to your seat. It was phenomenal. But why? Now, she's not screaming. She's not dancing. She's not showing her body. There's just something about her voice. And when you tapped in, you start saying, well, these earlier artists in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, your Sarah Vaughan, your Billie Holiday, that's what we really respond to. Everything else is marketing.
That's what we really want. Everything else is just smoke and mirrors.
We really want you to sing to us.
Right.
You know, if you go to a Taylor Swift concert, you know, she's covered up. She looks like, you know, the girl you could bring home to meet your parents in the 10th, 11th grade.
Not
right?
anymore. I think she's getting a little out there now, but.
Well, football players, what are you going to do? No one is incorruptible.
That's right.
So, but she's a phenomenal performer. Her image is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've got
and she's a good songwriter too.
She's an excellent
She writes her
songwriter.
own stuff.
She writes
you
her
got
own
to respect
stuff.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I respect people who write their own stuff. But even again, with Adele, it's like I look at all these, and also too, being in an electronic era, right, where Lady Gaga had risen to the top of the mountain, and then you had Rihanna who took on a sort of electronic, what do they call it? An electronic crossover in her career.
There was a moment where Rihanna had sold 145 million singles, but only 11 million albums.
Say it again.
She had sold 145 million singles, but only 11 million albums. So people were not buying her album. They were buying her single.
Right.
And that's kind of the yin and yang of being able to download and stream. Because it used to be, you know, in the Music Land days, a lot of consumers got ripped off. A song would come out, the CD was $17.99 and had one good record on it. So everything always goes too far, and then it's got to be calibrated. You know?
Yeah. Music is great. Let's shift. Let's talk a little bit about politics.
Sure.
Okay. The politics of music. I mean, there's definitely politics in music.
Music is the soundtrack of your politics.
Yes. What do you make of this recent shift we're seeing for the black community, at least black men, towards Donald Trump? The latest polls say that he's polling ahead of Joe Biden with black men, and that's probably the first time in my entire life that a Republican presidential candidate is polling ahead with black men. What do you make of that?
Well, you have to remember, Abraham Lincoln was Republican.
Right.
All of the 12 black U.S. representatives of the South from 1865 to, say, 1905 were all Republicans. You know, so Black America really is a Republican Party ethnic group. Things just change sides, right? So to answer your question directly, I believe that it came down to kitchen table issues. Kat says, well, you know what? Gas is costing me more money. Food is costing me more money. I can't take my family out to dinner, and I can't go to Chuck E. Cheese, and I can't go to this, that, and the other because we don't have that extra money. I mean, think about it. Whoever your president was before Biden, well, you were paying $2 a gallon for gas, right? You used to be able to say, well, I'm going to go grocery shopping and I'm going to spend $150. Well, now whatever you bought for $150 now costs you $280. So it's just economics. I wouldn't read a lot of politics into it. It's just like when I would ask my father who he's going to vote for, and, you know, he worked for Romney in Detroit when he was governor.
Romney's father, you mean?
Yeah. And marched with Martin Luther King, so on and so forth. He says, look, you know, if a guy keeps his promises and it doesn't cost me more money to run my family, then I reelect him. If not, then I throw him out. You know, so it's kind of people are just waking up to politics of economics. You know, how much money does it take to send my kids to school? What is college going to cost? When I came to Minnesota, 1 year at University of Minnesota was $11,000. Now it's probably closer to 25, 26. So the thing is, it's all economics. And so I think anybody could have stepped into that role that Donald Trump has right now if he's got the right economic plan. And listen, you listen to some of the things that Biden has said over the last week at his last few speeches. We don't really want to be spoken to that way anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, and that doesn't mean that the next president, whoever POTUS 48 is, might be a Democrat again. A guy comes back with the right program, the right economic and social agenda. It's about life. What else is there?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think there is something special about that. Do you think that Donald Trump's recent legal issues and sort of him being brutally targeted by the legacy media has contributed to the sort of how it resonates with Black community?
Well, it has kept him on the news. And I have to say, as an American, I am completely embarrassed by that whole show in New York. That is not what we do in America. You hear about other countries in Argentina or Iran where you put your political opponents in jail and you take them to court.
Russia's been accused
We
of
don't.
that many times.
These are not American values. Now,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. What they're doing to Donald Trump, whether it's justified or not, it's tacky, it's no class, and it makes us look like a banana republic. It's a bad deal. And more so than that, it sets a bad precedent. What if the next guy comes in and says, hey, you know what? We get to pay back for Trump. Now we got this slippery slope where we're doing, Trump could have done these things to Hillary Clinton.
Definitely. I agree.
But he didn't.
Yeah.
And they were not friends. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of feel
that's a hallmark. Actually, that's important you say that. I think that's a hallmark of why I respect, at least looking back now, retrospect, there's a lot of credit has to be given to Donald Trump now, ex post facto, because he certainly could have went after Hillary Clinton on a legal basis.
He even teased about doing it during the debates.
He teased about doing it, and he didn't.
But he didn't.
He chose not to. There's a real sign of sacred honor in that he didn't do that.
I just think it's a low point in American politics, and I hope it never happens again. I hope we have people who deserve to be in the White House, but secondarily, I just feel that we are the gold standard of democracy on the planet.
Yeah.
So we can't be seen doing, kangaroo court nonsense like that.
Yeah.
This makes us look bad.
It's tacky.
It's tacky.
It's so tacky.
It's tacky.
But do you think that the Democrat Party will continue to drift away from everyday American citizens, but the Black community? Do you think or do you think that they'll course correct? Do you think they're let's say humble enough to see where it's headed and then course correct, or will they can't help themselves?
Well, think about the way Lincoln, when he was president, his vice president was a Democrat, and then he tried to assemble a cabinet of his rivals. So this is not a new idea of saying, hey, you know what? We can get great ideas from across the aisle all the time. So why aren't we trying to do it now? So I just feel that Trump, he's got a good economic plan. People remember their checkbook and they remember the money they were making when Trump was in office. I remember it was much easier to find investment dollars when he was president. Now, there's a lot of challenges. Money is expensive right now.
Interest rates.
There's a saying that a lot of billionaires use, everybody's broke at a different level. Everybody's got a liquidity problem somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I think that what I like about what's going on right now is that for the first time, Black America is saying to the Democrats, prove yourself to me. The old Michael Henderson record. What you got? What are you talking about? You saw how they were trying to shake down Charlemagne the God the other day. He says, look, I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to vote for. It's a private. Well, we just need you to this, that, and the other. And some of the things that Biden said just were kind of hard to hear. If you're not voting for me, you're not Black. Things like that. We don't want to hear that. Listen, Those days are over. Okay, they are over. They've been over for decades. Go out, sell your. What is your economic plan? What is your educational plan? What are you going to do for the things that are important for me and my family?
The real issues.
Well, you know what? I am very. I mean, everybody that knows this, and my kids will tell you, I'm always talking about this. 80% of Black kids born out of wedlock. We are the only ethnic group in the United States with negative population growth every year. We've been hovering around 13% of the population since I was in high school.
Self-hatred.
Well, we got help. We're getting a lot of help.
For sure.
But what I'm saying is we're just not, our race is not growing the way it should be.
Right.
Black-owned businesses, 47% to 7%. A lot of these social economic issues are real issues for our race, and we hardly ever talk about them.
You and I have always had conversations about the I don't want to say the gossip, but some of the more superficial aspects of politics and just life in general in the entertainment business. Obviously, me being in professional sports and things like that. What do you make of this whole infatuation with Donald Trump's personal flaws and like the Stormy Daniels kind of politics?
Again, tacky.
Tacky.
It's tacky.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, if you get enough time, go online and do Wikipedia on every president. Everyone has feet made of clay. So we just need to stop it. Now, would I like to hear that he didn't have that broken glass in his history? Yes. But I don't have to sleep with him. I need to operate in America as an American Black businessman based on the economic and social dynamics that are, talk to me about the fact that only 1.75% of each dollar from American banks are loaned to Black businesses. So 98% go to white guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I want to talk about. Everybody say, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Hey, you know what? Give me a loan. You know what I'm saying? Things are starting to loosen up. I like the way some of the things that Mayor Fry has been putting together and a lot of things that are happening with Explore Minnesota. And I see a lot of in the post-George Floyd era. And he doesn't get enough credit for laying his soul down because it was a flashpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first flashpoint since 1968.
Yeah.
For the most part, it has been a good thing for our race. That the way America has put their arms around Black America was comforting. I liked it. I like the way
I
people
like it.
Well,
my thing is this. I know what you're saying because whether right, wrong, or indifferent, and regardless of how the mainstream media use that propaganda, which I have a big problem with, is part of the reason why I decided to get into politics because I was there.
Absolutely.
In person.
Yeah.
But I will say that regardless of if it was conscious or subconscious, regardless if it was knowing or unknowing, Black America took that moment to start to ask questions about broader issues of politics, even though it didn't happen right away. I mean, initially it was, and even me, I'm a great example. I mean, initially the emotion was, okay, here's a guy that got killed by a cop and, here we go again, that was sort of the mindset, right? And everybody was upset and angry.
Yeah, but he wasn't really killed. He was crucified.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was a crucifixion.
It was bad.
That kind of be like watching Jesus, get taken down on the cross. I mean,
not that far, but it was
no,
bad.
I'm not trying to say that I see George Floyd as a deity. I'm just saying in terms of we usually see things on the replay.
Right.
We're going to show you some footage that happened in Los Angeles with blah, 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 and hide the kids.
Yeah.
But no, we were sitting there watching this thing live. It had us.
It's a different feeling.
It was way different.
It is a different feeling.
It touched the world in a much deeper fashion than anything we've lived through.
And I got to say, and this is one of the kind of wedge issues that I've gotten criticism from by Republicans and conservatives alike, and people are like, well, George Floyd died of fentanyl, or he had, heart disease, and all those things may be true, and they all probably contributed to his death on that day. But I still think that what Derek Chauvin did was wrong, and I still think the action he took contributed greatly to what happened. But that's not even the point. My point is, regardless of what the initial emotion was about George Floyd, everybody was hyper attentive to politics.
But what is the white man's George Floyd in America?
Donald Trump.
Nope.
Who?
The day you saw JFK get his assassination.
There you go.
That's the flashpoint
Yes.
that a white American refers to as the most graphic depiction of violence that shook them to their core.
Yes.
Okay. That was their George Floyd moment. You know, I don't get into what JFK's lifestyle was, none of my business. Whatever George Floyd had in his system, none of my business. But there were so many ways to de-escalate that situation.
For sure.
You know, when I first came to Minnesota, over an 11-year period, I had been pulled over 105 times.
What kind of car were you driving?
My mother's Crown Vic, my Ferrari, my Rolls, my Bentley, my
black guy driving a Bentley. You getting pulled over, dog?
You know what? Not one time.
Really?
Never in the Bentley, never in the Ferrari. My mom said, "Oh no, you're driving those flashy cars. I feel for you." But like, okay, Mom, I'm gonna drive the Crown Vic. Okay, so I get pulled over in this city by this cop, and then he follows me to the next city, same cop. One time I was trying to fight a ticket, and the prosecutor says, "You know, Your Honor, I have a philosophical issue with proceeding with this case. It seems like Mr. Gabriel's being profiled." And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, it seems like the same cops are always pulling him over in multiple cities. What is a Eaton Prairie cop pulling a guy over for in Shakopee? What is a Shakopee cop pulling a guy for, pulling him over in the rain at night in Chanhassen?" So all that nonsense.
Yeah.
And
it happens.
Now with the benefit of new thinking, the point is, I was in the shower this morning. I was just thinking, what was, because this is George Floyd week. And I was thinking, well, what would be my white buddy's Floyd moment? And it's JFK's assassination.
Yeah.
That's the only time that they saw something that they cannot unsee, and they have to see it every November 22nd somewhere in the media. Okay? So we now have our one-to-one comparison on what trauma is.
Yes, and the argument people will make, and I can see it happening now, is, JFK was a great and he was a great president. He was a great man. He was incredible philosophically. People just talk different back then anyway. And I hate when people go, well, George Floyd was a criminal, he was a drug addict. There are a lot of people at the time when JFK was alive that made the argument that JFK was a degenerate, a drug addict, and a criminal.
Well,
first of all, his dad was a cold, hard criminal. There ain't no doubt about that. But he was a part of an industry that later became legal. So, there's a lot of flex on that.
All of our mavericks throughout that century have feet made of clay.
Right.
Okay. And we have to start treating each other the same way all the time, regardless. And I think we're in a good spot now. I like where America is right now. I'm not really crazy about what's going on in the Middle East. I don't understand why, we have all this politics about what's going on in Israel and in Palestine. But I love America right now. It's just a fantastic beat. The music industry is coming back. People are being able to sing and rap and write songs. And it's never been easier for a person to express their artistic vision and their creative personality in one day. Oh, I wrote this song this morning. I'm going to put it online. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. We're in a great spot. This is the world musically that Prince was trying to create. He was trying to create this open architecture where everybody has an opportunity to sing their song the way they want to sing it. That's fantastic. I mean, look at the stuff you have in the studio.
Yeah.
And we couldn't have done this 20 years ago.
No doubt. It's crazy.
It would have been cost prohibitive.
Yeah. You wouldn't have been able to do it.
Wouldn't have been able to do it.
It'd be ridiculous. No, I mean, to take the advancement of technology and what we're able to do now is incredible. I get what you're saying. I mean, and I think,
so goes music, goes the world.
Ooh, wow.
Look at the Beatles. Why are they're doing all these documentaries now on why the Beatles were so important. They were cathartic. We had just had the president's brains blown out on live television. Okay. And then you had civil rights thing going on. And then these guys come out, hey, are these guys even serious with that hair and these suits? You know what I'm saying? But then you listen to them, hey, you know what? I love you, baby. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, so on and so forth. And it was a great thing. That whole decade in the 60s was all healing balm, and America needed it.
Mm.
You know, we went through a really traumatic event. And when you look at Medgar Evers, JFK, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, RFK, I mean, come on, really? In a 5-6 year span, all those mavericks got their brains blown out, most of it on television. So America has come a long way, baby.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great LaSalle Gravy, the great LaSalle Gabriel. Thanks for being in the studio with us today. I
And
appreciate
congratulations on your recent
Thank you.
political advancements. I'm
Thank you,
very,
man.
very proud of you.
Thank you.
And I'm not surprised.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's going to be a long road to victory, and hopefully the start of a relatively good career in politics. I hate to say it because I don't like career politicians. Hopefully I don't make a career out of it, but I'm so young. It's hard for me to see not being in it for a while. I like that I'm in it younger. I'd like to cap it at around 50 at
But
least.
you know what? But America needs what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate
I'm very,
it.
very proud of you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. And thank you for being in the studio. Where can you, website? Yeah.
Okay, the group that I have out right now is called L'Amore, LMORE, music.com. And then the website for my recording studio is the lgmusicfactory.com. And then you can find more about my career and how to hire me to do work for you at LaSalleGabriel.com, LAS as in Sam, ALLEGABRIEL.com.
Great. Fantastic, man.
I enjoyed this. It was fantastic.
Appreciate you being here. That's the end for us. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern on Real America's Voice for the Royce White Show before War Room with Steve Bannon. This has been another great family and friends episode. LaSalle Gabriel, rich history. We got to have you back soon and talk more about the history of music and just the stories. As you're a wealth of knowledge. I want to know if you ever met Clarence Avant. You ever met Clarence?
You know, I've never met Clarence Avant. I was just saying to my wife yesterday, who's filling the political vacuum for the, I mean, have you seen that show, the Black Godfather?
Yes. It's good.
It's amazing that, I mean, his wealth of knowledge and his reach and being so widely respected in so many areas of the media and political landscape. You know, I've never met him.
Wow.
And so, unfortunately, one of the things I didn't get to do, but I, got to meet everybody else. You know?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that next time and get you back on the podcast soon.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Everybody else, thank you for the time. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today and in the future. Again, make sure that you tune in tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern on Real America's Voice. And we'll see you all next week. The fight continues. As always, Godspeed.